with Mika Gustafson from Svenska with the film called Paradiset Brinner, which was in the Horizonte competition. I believe the world premiere was yesterday.
Yes.
Congratulations on your fiction directorial debut. This is a film, the reason why I enjoyed this film is that there's so many more questions than answers in this film. It's left to us to do the exercise of spending time with these young people and a little bit older people. And there's a deliberate choice for it to be open-ended. That's a very specific choice on your part. We're left in the dark. We're thinking about the people that are not in the frame, that are sort of like in the periphery. If you had to pinpoint one specific scene or sequence in your film that was the kernel of the idea of this exploratory world, which one would it be that then sets you off on a path where you start writing it off?
It's actually not in the film.
Interesting.
I had a picture in my mind of a young girl.
Yeah.
Without a t-shirt, you know, before she developed breasts.
Yes.
Before she became a teenager.
Yes.
And it's the picture is like the feeling that I have, you know, before I become a woman.
Yes. Pre-puberty.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. When my chest was flat.
Yes.
And it's a feeling of being a human being before you start to become a woman. And I think I wanted to in this film it's about three sisters. One is 7 and one 12 and one is 16. And you also have these ceremonies in the film. I think it is about, you know, time is changing and the body is changing and life is changing. And it's about this, like, going from a child to a teen and from a teen to an adult, and I think that was like the first
kernel of an idea. So those three characters essentially paint a larger growing process.
Yeah.
Instead of putting it all in one character, you sort of like dip into those three. That's really smart. That's a smart device.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like this idea of how their home is protected. They protect it like a fort, and yet that's their safe space, and yet they find it within them to go and explore other spaces. And when I was actively watching the film, I was very curious about the objects that Laura picks up. All the characters pick up very specific objects and do things with those objects. Laura has this, the stove is too hot type rapport with some things. Other things she feels very comfortable about picking them up. So I was wondering about that facet about the film, the idea of touching other people's objects that they don't own, but they own for a fraction of a second or a minute or an hour. Like, what's the nucleus behind that idea?
I don't know, but I have to think about that a little bit. Maybe that's
Go ahead.
Maybe that's a gorgeous thing that you saw, and I'm like, did we think about that? No, but when we wrote. Like
she puts on a man's shirt at some point, right? Yeah. And that could be perceived on so many levels. It's like comfort. Yeah. It's something that could protect her. She touches very deliberate objects, food, stuff like that. But
we talked a lot about Laura. We had different. We name things like go on the nose, was one thing, and it was like that she should always be like, what is it in this water? And you know. And it could always be like, I'm gonna say hi to you, and then you, like hi, you know, something else happens. Yes. And it should always be on the nose. And I think that's also what happens to the character Hannah.
Yes.
Because she's maybe more person who's planned things, or her life is quite planned. And then just Laura shows up, and I think it's just a crash. That it's just, you know, this moment, otherwise they wouldn't have met, or she wouldn't have left the house, or, you know. But it just, this specific crash.
Instinctual. Babies do that. Babies pick up everything. They put everything in their mouth.
Yeah. And I wanted her to be like curious on life, and you know, if she finds food, and you know, and it was the same when we talked about the camera. We called it a dog camera.
Yes.
That the camera could be like going after character, and then like, oh, what is this?
Lose
like,
interest,
find something, and then sorry, I was going after you. And
fascinating.
And I think it was something to try to find this life and what do you say?
Earthy. Like very grounded. Because the film also explores territories outside, which is really fascinating part about the film, and that falls into another question. Is like, I really like this idea of rituals, and it's pledges or dares in English, right? It's two different things. But here it's to join a sisterhood. This sisterhood is very big, and we were talking about developing into women. So there's a sisterhood aspect. There's the womanhood aspect. I was wondering about the importance of you insert, and I don't want to spoil it because it really is like genuine, fun little moments. And I was thinking, oh, maybe it's a very Swedish thing, but I doubt that it's that. But the importance about having them belong to the sisterhood and take rituals as if it's life and death. I thought there's a really interesting element in how to bridge that generation gap, but also how to bring a whole bunch of strangers in that circle. I was wondering about that specific element.
I think it was really important that we never look down on the characters or feel petty.
Yes.
And that was really important, and it was really important also to have, I mean, it's a lot of despair in the film, so I really wanted this euphoric freedom to take place. And as you said, like the home is almost like a safe place. Safe place,
and it could be the opposite of that as well, right?
And, or a prisoner or a prison. But the ceremonies were like, it's not pride is not the right word in English. It's dignity.
Yeah.
And to celebrate what they do have, it was really important for me to be proud of what they have and their life and their relationship, even if it's hard. And I think it was Alexander who's the co-writer. He's an actor, so he's really good at, you know, coming up with different ideas, and I'm more like the serious director. It's like, no, that's not good enough, and maybe, and I have a thematic thing I'm thinking about. And he's like, yeah, maybe this. And I think it was him who was like, ceremonies, and because I talked about this transitions of time.
Yes.
And this is more my way of thinking, and he's more concrete than, okay, what about different ceremonies for that? And then we start to talk, and then we start to build something, and what does it mean, and why, and what do we want to show, and what haven't we seen before, and what is the feeling? What's the feeling inside? What do the character feel, and what do I feel when I write it? Why does it feel like it's the most necessary scene in the world? And the ceremonies becomes really important for them, and then it becomes important for me, and but it's totally fictional.
Okay.
They don't exist in Sweden, but maybe they will now.
Maybe you'll start something. The Tooth Fairy's in trouble. Anyway, don't want to spoil it. So the character of Laura is absolutely fascinating. I love how you frame this character. She's an unwilling matriarch in a way. And I was wondering about how much of a backstory did you develop to create a complex character? There's a lot that's not being said on screen, and she has to carry a lot of emotional weight, and she also has to carry the weight of her siblings. So I was wondering if that's one thing that you did. I mean, you had said during the no, maybe not during the Q&A. During an I think I saw you in another interview where you talked about the process, the casting process, and it was a very long pre-production process where you were coaching them. You were also doing exercises. So Yeah, just talk about the genesis of that character and how much did you develop the idea of Laura that's not on screen?
I think it's two answers on that. I think that one thing is that when I wrote these three girls, we were actually sometimes changing gender on them.
Okay.
Just to explore where could they go, how do we look at it? You know, you can. What happens in my mind? Am I the person who's like prisoning them or making the space smaller? Or so we did that a lot, back and forth, and it's a very good trick to find more complex characters, I think. And we did that actually on all characters. We tried different genders. So that was one way to go, and then I think also, I mean, I write together with a guy, and I think we had a lot of interesting discussions about Laura, and it felt very important that we could both see ourselves gender-wise in her, because I wanted the girls to be like almost genderless, or both, or whatever, how you see it. Because I really wanted to come close to what it is to be a human being. And I know it sounds complex because I talk about being a girl and then I'm talking about no gender. I understand it can sound complex, but I mean the world is quite complex to understand and live in. And also when we build the characters, we use ourselves, of course. And people you know, and then we put maybe 10 people together, and then we make a Frankenstein's monster.
Yes, a composite of all these different personalities, these traits, these ideas.
Yeah, to build all of them, it's just a strategy to find, and then we write a lot. So we work around it like a lot for a long time.
So it's a good thing that, because the original working title was Sisters, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, and in a way, I'm glad that you moved away from that, because there's these complex interactions with. There's these friendships that exist in this film. All three sisters have very peculiar friendships. I'm going to go back to Laura's character because she meets somebody. I thought it was such a fascinating dynamic, and what I like best about the choices that you made is that you never label the person that she meets as a hell of a lot older than her. And I wrote down, it could be her mother, a sister, a savior, a hero, a lover, a friend. Is like, you never label that person. And so I was wondering about this idea of building a rapport between two human beings and never stamping it as one thing. Like that's a very deliberate, I think it's one of the better choices of the film.
I'm glad you say. Yeah, we did the same with Hannah. We were like, what if she was a man? And what if she had a small kid, you know, and she left the house for a while, then you know what happened and what could this character do? And we also tried, we wrote Hannah and Laura as two men meeting, and we were like, yeah, what do they do? How do they move? It was a, and we had a lot of talks actually, as you said, about how much to tell about Hannah and how, and I don't really like to be, you know, psychologize the characters.
Yes.
It feels like you limit to them, and it's also very.
It's too easy too.
It's very typical way of looking at people, because the interesting thing with people is that you don't know. And it's the same when I work with actors. I never talk about the character. I always talk about the situation.
Yeah. Because
otherwise you can say, no, my character would never do that. And it's like, no, the interesting thing is a character who would never do it, but still do it. What happened? Why this? And that's what's interesting in life. When you, how do you say, shock yourself, or things just turn out to be in another way, and that's what it is interesting.
Essentially, your recipe is without a recipe book.
Yeah.
It's like, let's see what's inside the fridge and put things together.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the importance, as you said, in their relationship is more. What do they find in common? And why? Why this little moment of human relation? It could be just a brief thing, and I think that's the most beautiful thing we can experience, even if it's a friend or a sibling or a lover or anything. I think that could be. It could be just a meeting and a moment, or someone you meet on a train and then we see again, you know. And I really wanted this like I saw you and you saw me just for a moment, and it could also just be that, because I think it is something that they find something.
There's a definite law of attraction, and I think as a viewer, we're so analytical and we're trying to figure out, well, why is that person connected to that person? I think what the film tells us is like there's things that we don't control, and one way is they both need each other, except they haven't figured out why they need each other at that specific juncture. It's throughout the film is like they have different reasons why they're so dependent or codependent.
And I think it's quite, maybe it's not interesting what's happened between them. Maybe I think that it's more interesting what they're longing for. And
they both have agendas in a way, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I love the supermarket sequence because it merges two worlds. It merges their real desperate reality, which is when's the next meal going to come, regardless of what that meal looks like, but also this idea of invention and play and being creative. And I think that's why Laura wants to protect this world, even though, like, as a viewer, as an adult, we almost want child services to come in right away. The same reason applies to no, like, it's going to disrupt the potential little happiness that they do have as this unit. So I was just wondering about that idea, about why you believe that it's important for them to remain children in a very adult world.
That's a good question. I don't know, maybe it is about like trying to hold on to time, as we said before, like or hold on to things that will not change, because the world is always, and you are always, and I am always, and I mean, like, film is memory. It is trying. I think every filmmaker somehow try to hold on to the moments. It's like try to work against time to try to capture it.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Mika, and I'm a big fan of this film, and I love the fact that it's open-ended. I love the fact that it's full of life. I love the fact that it discards a lot of things that we've seen similar in cinema, and sort of like says, no, I'm going to go about things differently and build characters that are oblique and bizarre and weird, and it's just a nice mesh and a nice world. And I wanted to go in there and just observe instead of trying to save them. So thank you for this very first film, and looking forward to the rest of your cinema. Tack, I think, is how you say thank you. And
Tack.
Svenska. Tack.
Tack.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.